the Know Your Gear podcast. Today's episode of the Know Your Gear podcast is brought to you by Patreon members, channel members, and viewers who like and subscribe. Thank you for making this possible.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Know Your Gear podcast. The end of the year. This is the last one for 2024. It was over in a minute, right? It was a fast year. It was crazy. So I'm excited. I hope you guys are excited as well. And we have a lot to talk about. A lot of cool subjects, I think. A lot of cool questions already came in. And of course, we'll always have some subjects live and questions live. And before we start, just a real quick announcement. I just want to thank the moderators. This is a big deal. You know, we do about 50 to 52 episodes a year. I didn't count how many we did this year. We usually do 50, and then if we make 52, it's usually one or two are pre-recorded. But anyways, 50 episodes a year. They're here every week with me, helping you guys, helping the community. And it's a tough job, so you guys know. Every once in a while, some people get a little out there and different, and we try to keep the community clean and fun, and they're there to help make that happen, and I want to thank them for it. So there you go. And I also want to thank, of course, the patrons and the channel members that are the sponsors of the show. They really also kind of make this happen. It's a big deal to make it. We're coming up on 400 episodes, and still, we're still self-sponsored by viewers, which is crazy. I don't ever see it changing, and I'm excited that we made it this far. So I think we should just get into some stuff. What do we got to talk about? I saw the first question. The first one was from my Logify. I'm going to say my Logify. Hello, Philip. What do you think of the Ironball SE you had before? Did you keep it? No, my buddy Joe has it now. It says, how did you like it? Well, I said it in that video that I prefer the Fireball 25. Feature set on the Ironball SE is way superior. I mean, have delay, reverb, boost, well, noise gate and attenuator are in the Fireball. So just having the delay, reverb, the boost controls is really a nice amp. It's a really good amp. My critique of it was I thought the clean channel was a little too bright. And when I got the clean channel just where I like it, and when I say too bright, I mean mostly because when you run pedals through it, just the pedals just seemed a little tinny, and they didn't sound really great. So as a pedal platform, it wasn't my favorite. But clean, just even clean with the guitar, unless the guitar was big and full and throaty, the amp sounded a little too thin for me in my preference of amps, where I like more of some of the softer Fender-y cleans, where I like them, prefer them. So that was my critique. But when you can get it, I could get the Ironball SE to sound great clean, but because they were sharing the EQ, the distortion then was a little muddy for me, and I wasn't in love with it. And like I said, great amp, but not, hey, thumbs up. Great amp, but not necessarily, my favorite amp ever. And so that was my preference. So that's why my buddy Joe has it now. However, the Steve Morris amp, which is essentially the same amp with those fixes. So obviously, Steve Morris has the same opinion as me, because what is different on the Steve Morris Ironball SE, basically is what it is the things I wish that the first one had. It's just a slight adjustment. It's a little bit more punchy gain, less distortion. It's less distortion, a little bit more punchy, and the clean is just a little warmer. That's my preference. So it's just my preference. But I like the SE. Like I said, as an amp out there on the market, I mean, the differences between the two. And so, that's just my preference. There's no quality concerns between the two amps. There's nothing between the amps except for those tonal characteristics. You could be the exact opposite. You could literally love the Ironball SE and think that the Steve Morris is too dark and muddy for you. It happens. It just depends. It depends on your style of playing. It depends on the cabinet you're running through. It depends on the room you're in, and it depends on the guitars you use. So that's a big deal. So that's one element. And for my style, that's why I preferred it. But otherwise, great amps. I'm a big Engel fan. I like Engel a lot as an amplifier company. I think they're one of the most underrated amps. They're one of those amps, like, I always love it when somebody says, who uses Engel? And I'm always like, what's funny is if you watch endorsements, rock star endorsements. Yeah, I guess it's who plays Ingle. I mean, there's a few obviously tasty players that are playing them for sure. But when you look at in the studios, you know how many guitar players that you love had an Ingle on their tracks? I mean, it's something, everything it's a color palette. Everything has a place and a reason. Ingle is definitely used way, way more than anybody gives it credit for, especially in the studio. One of my favorite guitar players is Paul Gilbert, and he uses an Ingle Fireball, I believe, in the studio from time to time to get kind of like that big distortion sound, just high gain, lots of gain. And then of course but again, so you guys know, I'm not saying, cause I know some of you is going to go, no, this person uses it and this person, no, I know who uses it. I'm just saying there's a lot of people you don't know using it that use them as well. Let's see. Let's see what else. I still have, for the record, I still have my Fireball 25, but it's collecting dust, and it's just because the Steve Morris amp's getting used so much. So it's one of those things like, will the Fireball 25 go? I really hate to see it go. I just don't have a reason to get rid of it because I still like it. I don't have a reason to keep it. So it's just in limbo, right? I can tell you this: if I get rid of it, there's 3 or 4 other amps that I'm probably going to get rid of before that. There's definitely amps to get rid of, as I have too many amps as it sits, especially with the Synergy stuff. It's just, I have so much covered with that. Okay. What? Let's see. What's funny is, Sean Murphy says, I dream about an Ingle Morris amp. I hope that they make a Steve Morris pedal. That would be a good pedal. The overdrive section of the Steve Morris amp. I could see that. If I had this distortion as a pedal, I would love to throw it through a Fender amp and have that just as on top of any Fender amp I have. So, okay, let's go on to the next thing. Let's hit something Amanda grabbed. Amanda said, sent me, Tyler says, I never get the timing of when I drink water correctly. I'm always like, why am I taking a swallow while I'm reading? Okay, anyways, Tyler says, did you see the Squier Paranormal 12-string Jazzmaster? Any thoughts on the electric 12 strings? I did see it. I'm a big fan. Some people don't like those giant headstocks and a lot of the stuff. I thought it was cool. What I like, there's a lot of things I like about certain guitars, like Epiphone and Squier and Gibson and Fender and PRS, and every guitar has something I kind of really appreciate about it. One thing I love about Squier in particular is it's really the just do crazy stuff brand of Fender. There's a lot of guitars that Squier makes that are really cool, and then they make a Fender version and back up. So, a lot of them I know they're recreations of old Fender ones they're not making anymore, but you understand what I'm saying. They do some crazy fun stuff, but sometimes they do stuff with Squier and they never do the Fender version. I'm always like, so sad. So, but the Squier stuff is cool, and that's one of the guitars I think was cool guitar. I already got my 12-string fixed though, which is my Dane Electro right there. So that's for me, but for the channel, maybe it's a guitar could go on a geeky stuff ride, so to speak. We're starting to load up the lists now. We do the same thing as the podcast, about 50 episodes of the geeky stuff, kind of deep dive series. And so we're loading in the guitars for the year for 2025, and then I try to space them correctly. So it's not like too many of one type of guitar hitting you at one time. And when I say type, we do, if you haven't noticed, the deep dive series is playlists are by price. So price is how I try to filter. So I try not to hit you with too many $3,000 guitars, too many $200 guitars in a row, stuff like that. I'm trying to space it out. We also space out this interesting thing. Maybe it's not interesting. I don't know if it's interesting. Whether you guys are aware of it or not, lately we've been doing so many bonus podcasts for the patrons. Things come up on those, and I try to bring some of that stuff back over here. One of the things that came up was I didn't know no one knew this. So this is something I guess I never thought about. I never talked about it or said anything. I never really put any thought into it. I kind of just thought, sometimes I just think like, well, it's what you see will be obvious to you what I'm doing. Not only do I parcel out the guitars throughout the year, like in other words, $100, $200, price point effective guitars, $3,000, $4,000 guitars, small builder guitars. So in other words, like I can't do everything even, man. I just can't, not in a year, but maybe over the years, it'll come across even. If I highlight the Fender guys, the big guys, then I highlight the small guy, building guitars. And if I highlight a cheap, inexpensive brand, then I try to hit a more expensive brand. And if I hit too many expensive and inexpensive brands, I hit mid-range brands. The other thing I do is by country. I try to get as many countries in the show as possible. And I'm looking at, I have a report that I track. So you guys know I'm not just guessing and shooting from the hip. We have a report. It tells us, I'm looking at right now, what videos were profitable for us, what videos weren't, what videos you liked. In other words, what got most engagement, what got most subscriptions. It all goes into a report for me. And I look at it, month to month, but usually at the end of the year and kind of go, okay, what do I need to do better? Or what did we do that was not interesting? Last year, if it matters to you guys, I just, like I said, I never really gave this stat out before, but I'm going to give it to you now. I'm going to give it to, I can't give it lowest to most, but I'll get you generally there. We did one guitar made in Germany. One guitar was made in Chile. One guitar was made in Finland. One guitar was made in Mexico. 5 guitars were made in Indonesia. One guitar was made in Italy. One guitar was made in England. 16 guitars were made in China, of course, because it makes sense. 25 guitars made in the USA. I know I was shocked because I usually do slant to more USA made guitars on the channel. Like I told you, it's just a USA pride thing. I try not to do that too much. This year was definitely the most amount of USA products to where it was by far dominated by a large margin. So that's something I'm conscious about. So next year, I'm not saying I'm not going to do it. I'm not saying I'm going to decrease things by mass amounts, but I will try to even out, like I said, the price points, the type of guitars. There's a new big change coming. I leaked to you guys last week that it's coming, but I won't tell you it is, that it's going to make it to where it's just going to be the coolest thing ever. I don't know how. I'm like I said, I'm so stoked. It's definitely one of those things. It's either going to make the channel level up in a way that you're all like, yeah, or y'all hate it and then I'll have to go back. Okay. All right. Let's go to Guitar Mods Music says, hello, Phil. What is the difference between 8515? Oh, did we do this last week? Is this bleed over? Hold on. This is bleed over, right? No, it's not. No, this is from today. Okay. All right, let's go back to it. Guitar Mods and Music. Guitar Mods Music says, hey, Phil. What is the difference between 8515S's made by G&B that are in my 2017 S2 and the ones with the plain black on them with just a sticker? Bought a pair thinking it would be identical. So they meaning Paul Reed Smith are the most difficult when it comes to pickups. I don't know if you know, they don't really give you a lot of information about their pickups. They keep that stuff very close. In fact, sometimes it's very hard to get specifications even on what magnet is in what pickup. Of course, I go on forums and I can read information, and I have friends that work at PRS and I've gotten information over the years. But specifically to have it like stated in marketing materials, like this is how we make our pickups, it's very difficult. Let's see if things have changed, because sometimes I hate it because I'll say something and then they've made a change and then you guys go, well, I went on their website. And so let's go to PRS right now, guitars, and PRS guitars. And let's go to, I'll share with you guys in a second. I just need to get there if you guys don't mind. Products, we're going to go to accessories. I can share with you guys now. Let me stretch that out so you can see that. That's weird. Okay. Let's go products by category. Sure. Pickups. Let's do something like I know you said 8515, but let's take something like the 5909. let's see what they're giving us for information now. So, oh, Alnico too. So now they are telling us. So that is interesting. So that's cool. So they're giving us more specs. They used to not tell us what magnets and stuff were in there. So I was just wondering if I could check, because here's why. I'm not saying anything, but this is a conversation I had with a bunch of them a while back about how not having information. So and they seemed not like they were like, nobody could know. They were just like, why would anybody care? So I was wondering if it maybe got updated or changed. In this, I'm not seeing the 8515s listed here. I wonder. So it's something we can figure out. So the changes, so let me get out of the screen, because otherwise I'm looking at the wrong stuff. So back to your question, so to speak. Let's go back here. The difference is, I've noticed they've changed things over the years, but I don't know if it's just because they've changed manufacturers or if they've changed formula. Look, it's very common for companies to modify and change things. So to answer your question, I don't know. I just know that they've, in personal conversations with them, they've talked about how they've really spent time voicing the pickups for the guitar series themselves. So it's not so much a direct clone as a clone, but then with a voicing change, is what the impression I got from the conversations, if that helps at all. Bill says, my Boss IR-2 introduces much noise on some amps. Yep. Any ideas? Yeah, it's because I have the same problem. My experience with Boss pedals that I absolutely love and still use is amps like Mesa Boogies, man. They just could get really, that noise level, that hissing can get really high. Just having them not on, but on the pedal board. Just a buffered. I think it has to do with. I'm not an expert in that category, but I would imagine it has something to do with the buffered pedals just sending, maybe juicing the signal and making the amp just reacting to it. Could be something else, but that's what I've always took it as. And the reason I say that is I've just kind of learned, like, these pedals not for this amp, so to speak, and I use different pedals. And the more you use of those type of pedals with an amp like that, the louder it gets too. So it gets problematic. But yeah. So yeah, you just have to adjust. That's as far as I know. There's actually, let me give you the real technical crazy pedal answer, which is there are pedals that you can put those pedals into a loop, and so when you turn those pedals off, they're true bypass. They're just like boxes. There's all kinds of stuff like that. That's where I'm not a huge, I'm not into that per se, right? I'm really into keeping my pedal board simple. So that's where I would definitely check out some of the pedal-driven channels that like to give advice on like more detailed pedal information. I've done a lot of pedal videos, and I'll do more too. But when it comes to complex pedals, pedal boards, it's just not my thing. I don't think I've ever had more than maybe 8 or 9 pedals on a board max, and that's like a lot for me. And I like to keep my rig as simple as possible because of my lifestyle. My lifestyle is I don't have usually a sound check. Usually if I'm playing with somebody, it's very fast. It's like I need to get up, play, get off, and the last thing I need to do is figure out which pedal's causing a problem or what cable's loose or whatever. Just keep things easy, fast and easy. All right, let me go over here to, see, this is all nice. I'm like, sometimes my screens don't work, sometimes they do. They're working now. Alex says, how do local shops appraise my used guitars to determine what they offer me in a trade? Also, what do they look for when they inspect guitars? Okay, so this I've done so many times when it comes to trading and buying guitars. Mostly, as you guys know, I mostly did trading more than buying, but it's the same thing, same logic applied. You have a sense. This is why, like I said, you have to think. Funny thing. Let me tell you an insight that I got since doing the Guitar Center trade-in video. Okay. So when I went back, as you guys know, if you watch that video, and if you haven't, shame on you, you should watch that video because it's fun. It's a fun video. So it's, anyways, when I did the video where I went to Guitar Center, traded in some guitars and got a guitar, I, as you guys saw, that Telecaster was on pawn clearance. I couldn't have it for like a couple more weeks. So I had to go back a couple weeks after the video and go get it. When I was there, I got to talk to a couple customers, but also a couple employees, including the store manager. And in the discussion with the store manager, he said something. Oh, he said a lot of things that was really cool, but he said something that really made it click for me and probably is going to make it click for a lot of you right now that I've watched that video. I traded in the Harley Benton, the Squire, and the Epiphone, and a lot of you, including myself, were shocked that they gave me so much value for that Harley Benton. And what he told me was he has a local guy who loves Harley Benton and comes in the store and buys up pretty much every Harley Benton they get on trade. So he's just a big Harley Benton fan, and he loves Harley Bentons. And this is what, when he said that, so I was like, okay, now everything's clicked in. I had that same kind of situation in my store. Sometimes you have a customer and they're just diehard, like they like a brand or they like a type of guitar or they like a certain thing. And they come in all the time looking for it all the time. They're like, to the point where it's in their hello. Like, hey, Phil, got any new Boss pedals lately? Like they're just always looking for a type of product, and you just know it. So when a customer comes in to trade you in something, sometimes the value isn't just off of like, oh, on Reverb, they're selling for this. Like you already know. You're like, I'll just assign a name. Mike is always looking for a Harley Benton, and when he sees this Harley Benton, he's gonna want it. So I'm gonna look up, get a general idea of what they go for, and I'm gonna give this guy max power for it and just have it happen and quickly. So this is where I've talked about, I've said the saying before many times that taking sand to the beach. When you take stuff in to sell to a music store, especially a music store, not so much pawn shops, but pawn shops too, music store, remember, they already have this stuff, right? So you either have to give them something that they think is interesting, that they know that it's different than their current inventory and they can sell it, not something different than their inventory because they don't sell and they don't want that. Or you have to give them something that they flip a lot of, right? If you want to get good value for it. And that's why you have to sense that. So to the heart of your question, which is really how do they determine it? It sometimes it is as basic as, we did a search on eBay Reverb. This is what they're going for. We'll give you half of that or 60% of that, and that's the simple equation. But let me give you a scenario where I would do this personally to my own customers. They would come in with a guitar, and it doesn't matter. It didn't matter. I would pull up the guitar, and I already know. Like, let's say I'm trying to think of a good example because there would be guitars they'd bring in, and I would go, I know if I pull it up on Reverb, these guitars are all day selling for $600, right? Okay, so $600. And on trade, I want to give them 60% of that, okay? But this particular guitar, I just know I have no customers for. I don't have that kind of person coming to my store very often, right? Whatever it is. Maybe it's like a dobro. A dobro is a pretty example. I never had a ton of dobro players. I even had a dobro teacher, and I still didn't have a ton of dobro players. It was tough. And I told him when we hired him, he was an amazing slide dobro player. And I told him when we hired him, I go, it's going to be hard to get you students. You're going to have to do other stuff besides dobro. And then what happened was exactly that. He got half a dozen dobro students. The majority of students were just traditional guitar players. Dobro comes in. Even if it's cool, I'm like, I don't have the customers for this. I don't have that. Cat's not walking in the store very often. So I don't want to be into it too heavy. So I would be a little light on the trade value. I'd be like, they're going for $6. I want to be into it for $250 because I might have to go $350 to get rid of it. And I know the exception to that is you can throw it on Reverb and stuff. And that's a bigger factor now than before. But that's not usually what they want to do. I didn't want to do that because Reverb introduces fees. Think of this. There's so much cost. And again, I can only tell you about my store at that time, not stores now. At that time, the cost of running my store was so expensive. The idea to have to pay somebody else fees to get something sold after I'm like, dude, I'm in a high traffic shopping center. I'm paying $7,000 a month rent. You know what I mean? Which for me was a lot. And rent, I'm like, and plus the expense of the employees, plus the expense of the electricity, plus the expense of the inventory is like, I didn't want to have to go through a third party seller to sell this item because, the whole point is I want people to come in the store. Plus, the way I looked at it then was a customer in the store is a customer possibly for life. A customer on Reverb is just a customer on Reverb. It's just, I could just sell that crap out of my house to people online. I don't have to physically have a store with a community and a personality attached to it. So anyways, that's my whole point with that. That's those things. And the reason I tell you that is because that's all the intangibles to a trade. So there's so many things factored in. So there's also other things factored in, by the way, if you've done modifications to it, the condition of it, of course, but also how many they have at that given moment, as you saw with the Guitar Center trade, which is why I like videos like that. The thing they undervalued the most, the Epiphone. Any one of you would agree, out of those three guitars, the most valuable, coolest guitar was the Epiphone. But guess what? They were saturated with them. They had too many Epiphones, too many used, too many new. Last thing they wanted was another Epiphone. That Epiphone, if it's sold, it's selling in the place of 100 other Epiphones they want to get rid of. And if they get rid of the 100 other Epiphones, it's going to take forever to get to that one. So that was sand at the beach. That was the one they didn't want. That factors in. That I couldn't have wished for a better illustration video on trading. Because of the way they valued those three trades and how they looked at that. That was a perfect example of, we want the Harley Benton, so we gave you value for it, which we didn't know at the time of doing the video, right? We didn't know that, but now knowing, like, they had a customer for that. So that's why they were high on that value. The Squire, they gave a basic value, but again, it's a basic product. Okay, fine. And then the Epiphone, they gave a way low value because they didn't want it. That was their go away price. So that's kind of how it illustrated. There's part of me that wished, and I've told you guys before, that I didn't trade in the Epiphone, only because then in the video it would illustrate, like, you don't always have to do a trade. But you got to understand, in my logic, I just wanted to complete the transaction. I'd already put in the time and energy, and I wasn't into those guitars very much. So that's the way I've decided to do it. Again, it was based on the situation, but that's all the things that can factor into a trade or buy on a guitar, whether it's a store or not. Keep in mind, they're a business, so you add that in, but they're guitar players, add that in too. One of the best trade deals I ever got at a guitar store ever was actually at a Guitar Center. I traded in a guitar. I'll never forget this. It was a Parker. I had a Parker. It's a very long story because I've always had a bunch, but I mean, I had this one in particular, and I was like, I just had that, and I forgot what else, like 2 or 3 other items. There was a Gibson Les Paul at the Guitar Center. I'm pretty sure that Gibson Les Paul is the one that Ralph currently has. It was like a smoking guitar deal. And I was like, I gotta get this guitar. It's a great Gibson. It played amazing, sounded amazing. It was just ridiculously underpriced. And so I traded in this Parker, and I remember they gave me way more than I thought they were. Like the first price, I thought for sure I was gonna have to do a reaction thing. Like they gave me the price, and I'm like, oh, you can do better than that. Instead, they gave me the price, and I was like, wow. I didn't I didn't show my card, so to speak. I went, oh, okay. Any better than that? And they're like, no, man, that's on the high end. And I'm like, okay, yeah, it was on the high end. Thanks. And here's why. The guy behind the counter bought it. so he gave me a price. He went to his manager. I found this out actually as I was in the store later. We found out before we even left. He went to his manager and said, I want this guitar. He goes, I want this personally, and I don't want this guy to leave, with it. He doesn't want me to like get upset and go, I'm not taking that, and I'll leave with the guitar. He wanted it. So they upped the fair value. And I think he only had to give them 10% over their, whatever they bought it for, as the employee discount deal. So that's how it worked. So I thought that was really funny. So I also had another experience like that at Guitar Center with an amp, where they had an amp and they took it on trade, and I went to go buy it, and they told me, they're like, oh, they're like, the assistant manager actually wants it. And I'm like, oh, and they're like, but if you want to buy it, we have to sell it because we didn't put it away yet. And it was kind of funny. And when they took it on trade, that's what happened. They got it because they wanted it. So all those things factored in. Let's see. Fret 11 Midnight said, so he lowballed you because he wanted it for himself? No, he highballed me. No, he gave me, so he gave me a reference. He gave me $1,000 over what I was thinking they were going to give me. So I just give you a reference. I don't remember all the detail prices, but just to say, when they gave me the price, it was just I say 1,000. I'm rounding up. It was like $900 more than I thought they were going to give me on the trade value. So I was like, oh. Let's see. Hold on a second. None of your business says, is the Tim Pierce course, a guitar course, still around? Yeah, it's called the Tim Pierce Masterclass. You can go to it. Most likely we'll do something with them in January. Something, I like to give them a discount because they give you guys a discount. So they give you guys a discount, and we kind of pass that along to you. So you guys understand, because I promoted that. I've never had as many people ever since I've been doing YouTube compliment my playing as much as they have since I took that course. And I've talked about this before. It's not like it was the technical information. It was just almost like his philosophy on things is what did it for me. So anyways, we will get a deal from them and pass it on. It's very important to me because one, you guys save some money. And two, whether you realize it or not, this year, I just watched a documentary, so you guys know. I watched a documentary on Christmas Day about all of these horrible, horrible, criminal, basically, allegedly, I'm not going to say their names because I'll get in trouble. Allegedly, criminal companies who pretty much advertise exclusively on YouTube. And you guys can feel free to put in who you think they are because you guys know who they are. If you're watching on YouTube, you've seen all these companies, all of them. I don't want to say 100%, but I think there was 10 companies or 8 companies out of that. Oh, God, almost every one of them, maybe one didn't approach me in the last 2 years or this year at least and offer me huge dollars. For me, huge dollars. I mean, thousands of dollars, no hundreds of dollars. We're talking thousands and thousands of dollars. And sometimes not tens of thousands, but, let's just say in the 5-figure range, right? So now you're talking 5 figures. And I was offered Honey Pot. Yeah, Honey was one, right? There's a lot of companies. And again, allegedly, I'm not saying they've done anything wrong. I'm just saying there's all this. I watched this whole thing about all of the things that are out there with these companies, and we said no to all of them. And I say that for one reason is like, I don't know anything about those companies and I don't use their products. That was the main thing. It wasn't, I'd like to give you this like, this health company was, it's not like, we know they're shady. They just seem shady. Everything seemed legit. It's just, I wasn't versed in their company and the amount of work it would take to, D Forbes says the name of the documentary. When I say documentary, it's like one of those YouTube long videos. I will put a link to it in this description to that channel. And again, allegedly, I don't need to get sued, right? I'm just telling you, I watched a video, and the only reason I say anything is because I literally was like, oh, wow. Like, wow. Because those companies came at us with some pretty big dollars. And this video talks about why they're offering YouTube channels so much money and some of the issues. And some of them are legal issues and some of them are really sketchy sounding issues. And anyways, my point is, this year, the only like paid what do they call it? They call it integration. When I'm like, hey guys, click this link and do this thing, and was the CM Country Music Association, because the only thing they asked me to do was suggest that you guys go to their YouTube channel and subscribe. That's it. Funny story. I don't know if I'm allowed to tell. Funny story. I'm trying to think. I'll keep it. I don't want to get, because they were really good to us and they've sponsored a lot of videos. I don't want to say anything. The only thing was funny was they only asked us to suggest them to subscribe to their YouTube channel. They just, which is totally free. They just want, I don't think they asked me to, but I think it was, I got the vibe. I'm not supposed to say it's free, even though it's free. So my point is, that's the thing we did. Because that was the integration. Because I was like, oh, Country Music Association. Believe it or not, I'm a huge country fan. I used to be in a country band. I told you guys I worked at Old Tucson. I didn't tell you I used to be in a country band. Should have told you that. So, and by the way, my Spotify list, you guys know I like punk rock. By the way, you'd probably all be shocked how much country I consume on a daily basis. It's insane. I am from Tucson, Arizona. I'm sorry, guys. Country is just part of the thing for me. But anyways, my point is, yeah. So Tim Pierce, we'll try to do a promotion in January because I love Tim and I like his lesson course. I use it. If you guys have other lesson courses, please use them too. But I've used his lesson course, and you guys, I've never had so many compliments doing anything. And I've since I've been playing guitar since when I started doing his stuff. So, all right, let's see what else. Yeah, let's see. I'm just seeing if you guys are clicking in on any of the subject matter, if there's anything I want to highlight. Sometimes I try to see if there's anything interesting that you guys have to add besides we should drink eggnog. Fast Teddy 333 says, Phil, when's the last time you picked up your 12 string? Probably, I'd say this morning, but that doesn't really count. This morning was for about maybe 15 minutes. So probably yesterday for about an hour, was recording with it. So some guitars here on the walls, as you know, they're sometimes it's like, that looks cool on the wall for the show. There's a little bit of that, but a majority of this is just what it is there's the thing you don't see, which I showed you guys a couple episodes ago, the closet in the rack. This is like how I pull guitars. I pull guitars from the racks, and then I play, and then I hang them here, and then I just kind of alternating a lot of the guitars. So certain guitars I like for certain things. I'm still recording a lot of tracks and doing stuff. So, but yeah, I play that 12 string a lot, especially since I restring it with 8s. I have 8 gauge set of Ernie balls on it. Ernie Ball makes an 8 gauge set of 12 strings for it. Literally that set on that guitar, it's like effortless to play. Although I was scared to death when I ordered them and put it on, because I was like, oh God, look at 8s. Oh, but nope, sounds great, plays great. Dougal Dog wants to know if I had an experience with the Dane Electro Longhorn basses. Yeah, I did a video of one. I really liked it. As you know, I'm a huge short scale bass fan. I play mostly 32-inch scale, which is medium scale, and short scale 30-inch bass. What turned into my pole position bass, the bass I play like the majority of the time now, is a 30-inch scale bass. That's the bass I'm playing all the time. So I just like them. I think I've said this before. It's because I used to own a fretless. I played fretless for a long time, and then now I like shorter scale basses because instead of a fretless, I use more vibrato when I'm playing bass, and I can get a fretless E kind of vibe and sound from bending. I really like it. So there you go. Oh, okay. Jay Smory Music says, hey, have you found dirt pedals, distortion pedals, and overdrive pedals that sound okay on their own, but come alive when stacked with another pedal? Oh, sure. Just got the Victory V1 jack, which really shined once you put the Coco mid boost in front of it. I find for most of the pedals, the overdrive distortion pedals I like, just like amps, a boost pedal, some kind of whether a regular boost or a clean boost pedal. I really like stacking overdrives. Literally the rig I was using this morning, all morning for recording, is it's stacked pedals, 2 stacked on top. I love stacked pedals. So that's also how I like to run fuzz pedals. I generally don't run my fuzz pedals by themselves. So if I'm running fuzz, I'm running it into an overdrive pedal, or I'm running fuzz into an overdriven amp. Is how I like that sound. So stacking pedals is for sure something I like. I like the chaos of it. I like when 2 pedals are going. Usually you have a lot of stuff going on, and you're fighting it, and you're trying to control feedback and craziness, and there's just something in the energy that musically moves me. Then everything being tight and very like clean, and like a noise gate where it sucks down real quick. Noise gate to me is I hate it the most. I use noise gate a lot because I do YouTube. So especially like today, where I'm having noise gate today. That's why you're not hearing the amp running right now for the video when we do the gear of the week. I'm choking everything down. I don't enjoy that, but it is a functional tool. I know some people use noise gate as part of their music and style, but I don't have a style like that. So noise gate to me is a necessity tool, but it really takes to me, it sucks my energy down. It just, I like the chaos of two pedals or two amps or two things happening on top of each other. I like it to go crazy. So, okay. All right. Let's go to another subject question. Heroes Workshop says, what do they say? Hi, Philip. Have you tried the ER DMX10? If so, do you recommend it? I have a Charvel SoCal, but it's not just what I'm looking for in terms of feel. Let's take a look because I don't know. I feel like I have not tried that guitar, but I don't want to not. Let me get rid of your question mark here and hit the word guitar. That'll help. It looks like to me, if this is the guitar, does it give a nomenclature? What is it saying? It just says stainless steel tones fusion. I don't see the nomenclature. Oh, DMX 9. Why doesn't it say DMX 10? DMX 10. Okay, so the one I looked at was correct. Here's eBay listing. This is one. I have not tried this particular guitar. The guitar that I tried, I don't know if this is the right price, $819. I don't know if that seems like it. I thought I just saw one a second ago where it was way less. Yeah, $639 on Amazon. Let's go to that. So $639. That's a good price. This definitely vibes to me, obviously like a Sur, but it really reminds me of the Shiji guitars. And I just have to know, if it's as good as the Shiji stuff. My thing with eArt is, man, I think their level of quality for the price is really tough to beat. They just really got a lot of the QA stuff dialed in my experience with their guitars. But I haven't seen any of their guitars in recent, I don't know. I didn't do a guitar of theirs this year. So maybe they didn't like the deep dives as much. I don't know. You never know. I'm sure it's because they just, they're finding other YouTubers, and that's what happens. They want to hit as many customers as possible. So they kind of jump from channel to channel. All these companies are pretty smart. They learn like, okay, all the Phil McKnight viewership is bought a thing. So let's go get some other channel. Maybe that's their logic. I'm sure there's some logic to that. But without even trying it, I would say, it was real a lot. I liked them a lot better when they said $399. $600 is real juice. I don't know. I really like, my Made in Mexico Charvel, but I've heard a lot of people have problems with the Made in Mexico Charvels. I had a problem with mine as well. I mentioned it in my video, if you watch mine, that I had to remove one of the string trees because it was causing the guitar not to stay in tune, which is a very strange thing for me, as I never really have problems with string trees before. I would say that's the first guitar I've ever, for me personally, had to remove a string tree for a binding issue. And I even tried different types of string trees, and just for some reason, the D and G string on that string tree was just no moss, no good. So, but you can, I don't know, check them out. You can also suggest them to us. So, if you send them suggestions for guitars, please suggest guitars to us, as you never know. We're always looking for other stuff to check out, something fun, something exciting, something you guys are interested in. Remember, at the end of the day, I gotta make videos that you guys are interested in. So that's how we pay the bills. So Judson says, "Hey Phil, Eastwood guitars have a lefty rosewood veneer. Telly Eastwood Mad Cat, Eastwood Mad Cat RT. Okay. Available $1,400. I mentioned that when I did the Firefly, because theirs was, I thought, was theirs? It was like $1,400 made in Korea. How do you feel about Eastwood overall quality? Here's the deal with Eastwood, for whatever it's worth. I would be remiss if I didn't tell you that the last two Eastwood made guitars that were sent to me, one failed, and I've told you the story. It was my mistake. I made a mistake. I'll never do it again. It was because of the pandemic. I said that last time on this podcast, because the pandemic, and there's just so many things going wrong with so many companies. That was hard to put everybody's feet to the fire, when everybody's understaffed or dealing with issues. But I got 2 guitars from the Eastwood guys. They were the Revolte guitars. And the mistake I made was one was really bad and one had some issues. You can watch the one I did. It was good. Had a couple of issues, things, like I said, no guitar's perfect. And it's not about, the videos aren't about, shaming a product or telling, it's just giving you a realistic expectation of what to expect for the price point. But in those cases, what happened where I made the mistake was I sent them the guitar back and then they basically told me nothing was wrong with the guitar. And then they didn't send the guitar back to me, which I wouldn't have wanted. Well, actually that guitar I would have wanted back because I could have showed you what was wrong with it. And that kind of killed it for me. So we haven't really worked with them since. I like the owner. I know him personally. Super nice guy, good company. I love all this stuff, but I'm just explaining so you understand there's no problem. It's just I'm explaining why we haven't seen their guitars. I think they fall into a category which we now are collecting a pretty large group of those companies where they're not going to send us guitars. We have to buy them to get them on the channel. So a lot of companies are not going to they don't like this style of review. That's fine. We buy them and put them on the channel. So again, suggest those guitars because as you guys see, Fender and Gibson don't send us stuff either, and neither is Epiphone or Squier, same companies. We just buy them and put them on the channel. We'll highlight anything on the channel. I have nothing. Well, not anything. There's a couple companies we won't do, but it's such a short list. It's not even on one full hand of companies I won't review. So there you go. So that's your answer. I didn't try it for that reason because they're not going to send it and it wasn't on my radar. But overall, I've liked their quality. Overall, I like them as a company. And like I said, that helps. Christian says, hey, Phil, got my work bonus in Amazon gift cards. Then nice. Nice bonuses are nice, right? For those people that don't have a choice, what sellers do you like besides Gear Nuts on Amazon? A kind of a PSA. I really like the Music Zoo. I'm not really familiar with who all the sellers are on Amazon. With Amazon, for me, I try to stick with companies I know because, Amazon is not as bad as eBay. And, but it's worse than Reverb when it comes to, I'm freaked out about getting some fraud stuff. I had this happen to me on Amazon. This is funny. This is a story we were just recently talking about with the patrons. Is it Copix? Is that what it's called? Copix with an X? No, what is it called? I can't remember what they're called. Copix pins? Copic. Yes. Copic. Yes. My daughter got into this thing called Copic. Is that what they're called? I think that's what they're called. I don't know. I'm messing this up. They look like whatever I'm looking at. Anyways, my point is my daughter got into these pens and I bought some on Amazon and they didn't work that great. And so we found out they were kind of they're like fake or something, I think. Right. So my point is you can get fake stuff on Amazon. So I'm weary of sellers that I don't know that don't sell off Amazon that I don't know. So that's, I would say, stick with the sellers you do know, if that helps. Chicago Music Exchange is good. I've had good experiences with them overall. And so, I had one not so great experience with them, but I had 10 good. So that just, I'm just highlighting. I like the law of averages. No, I don't have a burn a bridge off of one bad experience. To me, if the sum is good, then I'll keep going. Grumpy Mike Guitar says, thanks for the great content in 2024. Can't wait for all the KYG goodness coming in 2025. Happy New Year. Happy New Year. I'm excited too. Couple changes coming to the podcast for 2025. Nothing that's going to be super different. A couple things to improve, of course, but some changes. I don't want to say a lot, but some changes to the review content that I think is going to make it better and more diverse with the amount of gear we hit. So that's the big thing, right? I'm trying to hit more stuff. I told you guys the stats earlier about, where guitars are made and the price points, but we try to introduce as many new brands as we can. So same thing. We're trying to interject more new brands next year. Midnight Sun says, what kind of amp is that in the background? It's so pretty. That is a Amplified Nation. This is the Amplified Nation Wonderland Overdrive. I have to look at it every time because I don't know if it's the Overdrive Wonderland or Wonderland Overdrive amp. This, I have reviewed so many of the Amplified Nation amps, and I got to tell you, every one of them was, in my opinion, just an amazing sounding, stellar sounding amplifier. Ampliphonics and Gain is definitely one of my favorites for sure. And, as I would go through this series of amps, as they send me different amps, here's the weird thing about this. Because I'm just going to tell you, this connects to the Amplified Nation especially. Because I had this conversation with a close friend as recently last week, and I thought it was funny. He was like, which amp did you like best? And I go, well, I like this amp the absolute best. This is my amp. Like, when I say my amp, I mean, I'm not saying it's the best of all those. I'm not saying it has the best distortion. I'm not saying it has the best clean. I'm not saying it sounds the best. I'm saying, like, for me, what I do, my style, my feel, what I want out of an amp. This is it. This is absolutely it. No questions. Holy grail of Amplified Nation amps, and maybe even amps in general. However, this is what I told him. I'll tell you, I could have stopped, like, any Amplified Nation amp they sent me. I could have just, if I never heard another one, that one amp would have been the same. I would be saying that too. And I would be fine with it. It was only as I tried all their amps, and then you go, oh, okay. And I kind of learned from trying them all, which is like, okay, the Steel String Singer, which I think is the Rising Phoenix now or something, ultimate clean, not a lot of gain, just sounds huge, right? Throw some pedals in front of it. It was a great amplifier. To me, the Ampliphonics Gain has the higher gain sounds, which is great, and then an amazing clean tone and a great reverb. So I was like super happy. This to me is all about that Robin Ford, John Mayer, Joe Bonamassa thing, whatever you want to call it, that light overdrive where the note just sings, even though you can't even, your ear can't detect distortion. You're not hearing overdrive, but the tone is good. Sean says, plug into it. Well, I've done a ton of times on the podcast, but there'll be an official video of it. But again, stuff like this, I like to really, not be in honeymoon mode. And I was in honeymoon mode until about a month ago. And then I think now I'm more realistic with it. And when I say realistic is, like I told you guys, I don't think you can review something if you don't have something negative and positive to say, and to me, a lot of times it's not that I want to pick things apart. But I want to be able to say, like, I like it, but also here are some things you might want to know. I like to give some pushback on it. And I find that when you first get a product, you're in love with it. So everything's positive. It's the honeymoon mode, but also the negatives are just what you're experiencing because it's new to you. And maybe that negative, I'll just tell you from my perspective, I've long time ago, years and years ago, when I do a video now, back then, sometimes now looking back going, God, I said that was a negative, but now it's my favorite thing about the product. I wish I would have waited another 4 months or 3 months or 20 days or whatever it took. So really, really cool. So I'll have a video that will be in January of this amp and discussing it in detail and what I like about it. And also, what I learned from it, because this amp taught me more than probably any amp I've ever worked with or owned in dialing in other amps or pedals to do what this amp does. So the good news is, even though it's a super expensive amp and a lot of you are like, man, I don't know if I'm ever going to throw down the kind of cash for that. What I learned from this amp is, I think I said this before. I learned that most people, when they most of us players, when we're building a pedal board, even though we've never really heard this amp, that's really what we're trying to get all the pedals to do, is what this amp's just doing on its own. So you kind of realize, like, you actually know how to make stuff sound like this. It's just really nice to plug in that and have it do it without any other help. So, the other thing too, so fun, since we're talking about it, is when I was working out, because I don't do scripting. I don't write a script, but I do write bullet points so that everything gets covered in the video. So I kind of don't have to go back and go, oh, I never mentioned that. Let me go and add that in. When I was kind of bullet pointing ideas out, one of the things I thought was, I used to try to think of like things people are going to ask. And I'm like, oh, well, they're going to ask, obviously, if you're playing the John Mayer amp, are you running a Klon through it? Well, as you guys know, I'm not a huge Klon fan. And then I go, I mean, I don't hate the Klon. I'm just not like the Klon is the greatest thing ever. And I was like, oh, I probably should run a Klon through that. And then that started a whole problem of, well, what Klon do I run through it? So I had to go buy a Klon. So I recently did that. Bought a Klon to run through this amp so I can demo a Klon through this thing, because you get the idea. So, but yeah, so to answer your question, it's Ampliphonics and Gain. It's the Wonderland Overdrive. Had it done in blue because of the song Neon by John Mayer. I was like, I wanted it like neon blue. I wanted it. I said that in a video and somebody's like, it's not neon blue. It's like turquoise. I'm like, yeah, I know. But when I told Taylor Cox at Amplify Nation, I didn't tell him that color. I said I wanted it bright neon blue. And then he picked a color that made it look like that. So, K-Dub says any Nada Klon will do. I was going to get a Nada Klon, but they were still back ordered when I did it. So I got another one. It's fine. What I got is acceptable. It's fine. All right. I don't want to give away too much because then the video you won't have, like, I can't tell you Bruce Willis is a ghost at the, right? And no one's going to want to watch. All right. Midnight Sun. Oh, we did Midnight Sun. Michael. All right. Let's take a pause. Let's do the gear of the week. So gear of the week is simple. We're going to do a giveaway. We're going to do 2 giveaways, and then we're going to do the gear of the week. Okay, so what is the gear of the week? Well, a couple exciting things for me, and I hope you guys let me indulge a little bit because it's the last show of the year. So I want it to be a little bit about the community and not so much about everything else. Something to note is thank you guys so much for everyone who submitted a picture. So I was running videos of the pictures in some of the podcasts, and we're going to do one at the end of the year, and I opted out of it because I think people, I get it. We're sensitive, right? I have a saying that I told my wife. I go, I saw this once that somebody put their hand in a box and it was like they put Doritos in there and they told them it was glass and they reached in and squeezed it and then they freaked out because they thought they crunched glass, but it was Doritos, right? Corn chips. So my joke to my wife was sometimes I don't know if it's corn chips or glass. Like, in other words, am I being sensitive? Is it really something bad or is I just think it's bad, right? I hope that makes sense. So what happens is, what I'm saying is, I understand when people get upset because I was posting pictures, but then for some reason people didn't see their picture and they would send me an email like, was it bad? Is that why you didn't use it? And I'm like, well, maybe you missed it. Also, maybe I missed it. So I was like, I'm just trying to keep things fun. And so we'll do something with that, but not today. Okay. So what are we doing today? Well, the good news is this: we gave away we're just short of $8,000 worth of product for this giveaway. That's pretty crazy. So I want to thank Dane Electro. I want to thank Dane Electro, Pedal Pal Pedals for them donating a pedal. I want to thank my wife for making work shirts and stickers and picks and stuff to giving that out. I want to thank what else did we give away? Oh, Stu Mac. Can't forget the Stu Mac guys. All those kits. They gave away 30 things, right? 10 sets of the weather kits, and then 10 of the Restring kits. So it was really, really cool for all of them to participate in this. And by the way, when I say $8,000, that doesn't include what we paid in shipping to ship stuff to you guys. So I'm just talking about the prizes alone. So $8,000 worth of stuff. I really feel good about that. Really, really good. And I'm really happy, and it was really fun, and it really helped me in a mood I was having when I started that contest, which I was kind of getting burnt out. And it really kind of made the shows a little bit more exciting for me, because instead of thinking about like, what is you're going to ask this week, it was like, who am I going to pick? What are we going to see? So today's somebody who sent us something cool. The people at Lace Pickups sent us a set of Lace Pickups to give away. 2 sets, so to give away. I got one to demo so you guys can hear them, and then 2 sets to give away. So today we're giving away some set of Alumitone. These are custom in red. Check that out. But the other set's custom in blue. So there you go. So you're going to win a set of Lace Alumitones. These are $270 a set. And Lace sent these to give away. And I thought, well, if they're going to send them to a giveaway, we should try them. So what I did is I wired up a set real quick. The blue set, look at that. Looks really good with that guitar, right? We do have, so you know, for the record, spin around. Ta-da! We do have 2 sets. How am I going to do this? I have no idea. So how it works is when I pick the winners, the first one to email each one, tell me what color set you want, and whoever's first gets to pick it. Now, you know what? That's going to be too confusing. I'm just going to pick one, unfortunately. One of you is getting blue, one of you getting red, and I'll tell you which one when you win. So let's demo the thing first. So I'm running in the Ingle Steve Morse amp. Let's do this. Usually I have a second cam, but I really didn't need it. But here it is. Here's a second cam in case you want it. Okay. Here we go. I'm going to go ahead and play the pickups for you. First distortion, then I'll do clean, okay? I promise I'll do both. Here we go. Here is the overdrive. Okay, so that's with overdrive. That was your neck pickup at the end. Here is the bridge. And what I love about them is the clarity. But let's go ahead and switch to clean. We'll start with the neck. Here we go. By the way, when you get your pickups, they don't come with bad notes like I give now. They are very articulate pickups. I gotta tell you. I mean, they sound great. That's the neck again. All right, middle position. Last one. Here we go. You know, I was shocked how much I like these. I've played Lumitones in the past, and I really, really liked them. Funny thing that happened. Go back here. Funny thing that happened to me last week, Noah. Funny thing that happened with this. The fine folks at Lace reached out. So you guys know I was critiquing Lace. I had some issues with Lace. We talked about this on a podcast. They reached out and they said, hey, you know, they made some changes. And we had a great conversation. It was a very uplifting experience. I'm not kidding because, you know, they didn't have to do anything, right? And then they reached out and said, hey, would you be interested in giving away a set of our Lumitones? And I said, yeah. I said, why don't you send me a set of blue ones because I'm going to put them in this guitar. And on the show, I'll play the blue ones in my guitar, and we'll give away a set of red ones. Right? I don't know why, just because it's fun. And they said, great. What happened was the blue, by the way, which looks gorgeous, right? Doesn't that look great? This like brushed aluminum blue and the reds. The blue did not match the guitar. They looked really strange in the guitar because the blue on the guitar was just so much different. I was doing it off pictures and it just didn't work out. And so I thought, okay. So I thought about sticking with another guitar, but I really wanted to put these Lace Alumitones in that guitar. And so what I decided was I'll just give away both sets. That's how I'll do it. And then I'll buy a set of chrome for myself and I'll put the chrome set in that guitar. And we'll just do it that way. Right? They were really cool to send out the pickups. Now we have 2 sets to give away. And I really wish the blue ones worked out because the blue looked great. Trust me, I sat trying to figure out what I could stick those blue pickups in, but I really want to put Alumitones in this one particular guitar because of the fact that I told you they're really articulate and clean and clear, and this guitar is a little muddy, and they're going to really clean and fix that. So I thought, I'll just have to get chrome ones, so it's because then that way I don't have to worry about it mismatching. Who's going to win what? Well, first of all, this will make sense. I'm going to give the red ones to Lars. Who's Lars? Lars sent this. If you guys don't recognize what this is how old school Lars is. This is a Know Your Gear sticker stuck on the side of a red tackle box. I did a video called The Ultimate Restring Kit where I talked about the fact that I use a tackle box. Yes, I still have that tackle box. I should have grabbed it. It's in the other room, but it looks like this red tackle box that you're staring at. I like tackle boxes for restringing and for having for repair kits more so than little toolboxes because guitar parts are really small. And you know what? I should just go get it. Hold on a second. Ta-da! So funny enough, I stuck stickers on mine too. So I stuck a Stu Max sticker right there. I got my Know Your Gear stickers right here. So you know what's in mine? I think on the top. Oh, it's a note from my daughter. So, okay. So, but that's nice. That's cute. All right, now, so when you open it up, you can see in there. You can see the trays. I got a fret rocker. I got a winder. I got a capo. I got a measure guide, measuring tool, a file. Well, not a file. And then if you open it up, it's really hard to do it this way, guys. Hope you guys appreciate this craziness. You know what might help? Camera 2. Look at that. This will make things easier. See? This is why we had camera 2 today. And I didn't even know it. All right. That has to be somewhat easier. Maybe not. Come on. Here, we'll do it this way. All right. So you see I got a tuner in there, some tools. You can see what I'm talking about, like putting small parts, like the screwdriver heads, Q-tips for cleaning guitars, little drill bits, Allen wrenches, Dremel tools. Oh, you know what would help if I was in shot? Dremel tools, like a buffing wheel, springs for tremolo claws. So you can imagine you have so many things. And then of course at the bottom, there's where you keep like your calipers, more like the syringes you use for, you know what, maybe this camera is better. Syringes you use for injecting glue into guitars. Just every kind of tool you can think of, but of course, more importantly, all the little small little bits that you need, including some picks. Look, Know Your Gear picks. So I still use it, still love it. This actually has a funny story. I did that video because I thought, oh, somebody asked me, you know, what do they need for a restring kit? And so I went down and I was like, you know, I really want to show like why I use a tackle box. So I did. Here's why the story's funny. So I did the video. I don't remember how many views it got. I don't remember it being a very good video performance-wise. I don't remember it that way, but I do remember this. Walmart called me. So what happened was I bought this tackle box at Walmart. There was one on Amazon, and I was gonna link it in the video, so I can get affiliate dollars. But I was like, oh, it's not the one I'm using. It's the one I used. I bought it at Walmart. So I just tell you guys, I told you guys, oh, it's at Walmart. So what happened was, I don't know, a week or two later, Walmart called me. They like called my phone, and it was like, I was like corporate headquarters, Walmart corporate headquarters. I would normally don't answer my phone, but I answered the phone because I'm like, Walmart corporate headquarters. This nice lady's on the phone, and she's like, hi, my name is somebody, I don't know, from Walmart. She's like, we wanted to talk to you. And I said, oh, okay. She's like, you highlighted in a video a tackle box, and she gave me the model number and stuff, and it's red. And I said, yeah. And she goes, we sold out everywhere on those, and we didn't know why. And so I guess they found it. I don't know how they figured it out. She didn't tell me. They use satellites and CIA operatives, and they figured out the link. I don't know what it is they figured out, but they're like, we figured out it came from this video. And I go, oh. And she goes, we're totally out. We're backlogged now for like 3 months on these across all Walmarts, because like the online was just burning them up. And I said, oh, okay. And she goes, we have a different one. It's like green or blue. I forgot. And she goes, I'll send it to you. Could you please let everyone know that that's the one that we can get? Because we can't get the red ones right now in that kind of numbers. And I was like, all right. So I think I made a note on the video itself and then put the note. So it's funny to see one in the wild. Lars posted one in the wild. I was like, well, I'm like, yeah, it makes sense that he has one, because like, I thought that was funny. So that was the Walmart. By the way, I thought in my head, I thought I was going to go like, Walmart's like, and we want to write you a giant Walmart check for really helping us sell a gazillion of these things. No, none of that stuff. But hey, it was fun, and you guys really, really killed it. So that's why I use a tackle box. You guys can get these at Walmart. You can get them on Amazon. Just any tackle box will do. This is about the size I like. You can go bigger, you can go smaller, but I really found over the years, this is the right size to put all the stuff you really need in there and still be portable. And I really do like it. And I've tried every toolbox. Well, not every, but you know what I mean? I've tried so many toolboxes, and the tackle box is better. So Lars, you're getting the red set of Illumitones because you did a red tackle box. So you're getting a red Illumitones from Lace Pickups, and then you'll get some Know Your Gear picks and stickers. The second winner is James. Now this is really funny because James, as far as I know, submitted this today. So we put James in a randomizer. So James, it's a great picture. Actually, I love this picture with the cigar box guitar with the slide. I love the green Know Your Gear shirt. I like it. But I gotta be honest, you were literally just picked because I was like, I threw everybody's pictures in this randomizer thing. All the emails I got is not pictures, but the emails in a randomizer, and it picked you. And I thought it's funny. As soon as I saw your picture, I thought, oh my God, that's hilarious, because I'm pretty sure I saw this email like today. This email came in today. So James, you literally like talk about you Indiana Jones this, man. You literally slid right under the contest wall door as it was shutting, like ding. And it was like, you got it. You won the prize. Like, were you wearing a hat? Yeah, like your hat almost didn't make you. You had to reach in and grab that hat. So you're getting a set of blue Lace Illumitones, which, by the way, if you're into cigar box guitars, those Illumitones would work on a cigar box guitar, believe it or not, because they're basically, the way they're designed, they'll cover pretty much any spacing. So you'd be pretty much set for the most part. I think, yeah, you'd be pretty good. I think you can make anything work with those. Fantastic. So I want to thank Lace. I want to thank Dan Letro, which is also Snark, by the way, because remember we gave away Snarks too. That's same people, same lovely people. Stu Mac, so much thank you. And of course Pedal Pal for sending a pedal to give away. I want to thank all you guys. I hope I'm not missing anybody. I don't think I am. It's a really big deal because, so you know, I was gonna, this contest really was killer, because although we did pay a lot of the shipping, we were gonna be giving away pickups too. And, it was going to cost us a lot more than it ended up costing us, which is good. We can put that money towards the channel. So that's really good. So I want to thank the companies for all those companies. Every single one of those companies pretty much volunteered. What I mean by that is like Dane Electro came to us and said, we'd like to give away 24 pedals and some snarks and do this stuff. And, Pedal Pal came up to us and said the same thing. We would like to do that. StewMac, we were talking to them and we mentioned we were doing this, but they were early adopters, no problem. So I want to thank them for that, especially since there's a lot of companies that said no. so it took to get those few companies to step up and do this. It was really cool, especially there was probably about 3 companies for every one of those that said no. So I want to say thank you for the ones that said yes and gave away all this stuff. Thank you guys so much for all the pictures. We'll do something with them. Like I said, nothing's ever over, right? We'll do something else. We got those pictures. We still want to do some fun stuff. We'll have some more stuff to give away. We do want to give away some pickups and do stuff. So we'll figure it all out. Thank you guys so much. And we probably should get back to guitar stuff. Okay, so what do we have? We have a perfect time to drink water while I read. All right. This comes from Michael, who says, hey, thanks for all the great content. I got a used Jaguar and adjusted the truss rod. The next day, the action was off again, and it seemed like the truss rod needed adjustment. Should I be concerned? Well, yeah, a little concerned, because that doesn't mean anything yet. If the truss rod is slipping, in other words, like you're turning it and then it's basically coming undone, it's not really the correct term for what it's doing, but you know what I'm talking about. Like the relief is coming back in after you've straightened the neck out. It could be a problem. However, you adjusting your truss rod and then the guitar neck moving is not a concern. First of all, like I said, the guitar neck does not want to be straight. Okay. That is not is not what the piece of wood wants to do. As you guys seen, if you kill a tree, cut up pieces of it and lay it out, its natural thing is not to stand perfectly. It's not to be a straight board, right? Go to Home Depot and find a straight board. I know we're talking about different grades of wood, but you understand what I'm saying. Like trying to find a straight board. It's a pretty hard thing to do, right? Especially on its own. So the truss rod is there to kind of make it be straight, right? Just kind of force it into that perspective. So the fact that it moves back, it's not a big concern. If it continually does that over and over again, then we might want to look at the truss rod, the end of the truss rod. In that particular guitar, it's going to be a cap on the end of the rod itself, and that could be stripped or slipping. There could be issues there. So you might want to take a new cap, but I would take the cap off. The end piece of the truss rod, take that off and look at the threading on the actual truss rod itself, the rod, and make sure it's fine. But not again, it can be fixed. The only thing I'm concerned about sometimes the truss rod's broken and you don't know it. But what I mean by that is it's not very common. Again, these are very uncommon things where, usually if it's broken, it's going to free spin. It's going to be really easy. But sometimes because there's like wood dust in there and wood chips and things, and it's bound up and it's tight. So when you're turning it, it feels like it's tight, but really it's been broken and it's just kind of free spinning a little bit. Don't freak out. Okay. That's the 1 in a million thing. Well, 1 in 1,000. That's 1 in 10,000. It's 1 in a 10,000 thing. Okay. Not likely to be your problem, but I need you to be aware that this is what you need to look for, these kind of issues. But adjust your truss rod and your neck moves back the next day is not a big deal. Adjust it again and wait. It happens. So, sometimes you have to adjust 2 or 3 times for it to kind of settle out. Because again, it's got to settle, right? You don't have to wait 3 weeks, as we all know from a master luthier, to do a neck adjustment. But sometimes a neck adjustment doesn't take right away. It's not super easy. Fenders, to me, in my experience, are the least problematic. So these are not likely to have that problem because, the maple's really, really hard wood and the truss rods are really good on a Fender guitar. So I would say make the adjustment again and pay attention. That's it. Why? Okay, there. Banana Bread. Banana Bread. That's a great soda. Banana Bread says, I got to tell you, Strat and a semi-hollow Les Paul. What other kind of guitar would round out the collection? Love from Canada. So you got a Telly, a Strat, and a semi-hollow Les Paul. I don't know, a metal guitar. Get a headless guitar. Everybody hates it when you say that. It'll change your life. You get a headless guitar. You get a good headless guitar, you play it all the time. It's so easy and so effortless to play. I would say if you got a hollow body and you got a Strat and a Telly, I don't know. You didn't say acoustic. You got acoustic guitar. Would definitely round out the collection. Here's my actual advice. I could name 50 guitars and none of them would be relevant. Here's what I will tell you. I would say I have found, with me personally, more luck in finding the slightly different guitars than what you have than the dramatically different. In other words, a 12 string, a baritone, those are a little too much. Like you don't need to go that crazy to those extremes. Like I said, a dobro or a slide guitar. I would say if I had a hollow body, a Telly, and a Strat, I would probably, whether I played metal or not, I would probably want something a little bit more like maybe a Schecter or like something like an LTD or something, just maybe not metal, but something a little bit more modern. Think modern guitar. Don't think metal, just modern feeling instrument to see. It's a nice little change. Yeah, I like doing that. Sometimes I play the modern feeling guitars because I play a little faster. I play a little more effortless. It feels really good than the vintagey style guitars. I think it's because for some reason when I play vintagey style guitars, I slow down. Like my playing slows down, my thinking slows down. Everything just kind of feels more like spiritual, where modern guitars feels more technical feeling to me. And I just immediately, like my mind and my body switch to that when I pick those instruments up. So something a little bit more modern. Will says, thanks to you and Mrs. McKnight for all your great content this year. I bought a Les Paul Classic this year, gold top with 60s neck. Hard to find this combo. Yep. What's your favorite Les Paul neck? So my favorite Les Paul neck is a 60s neck from like 2005 to 2008. I used to think that was a crazy thing to say out loud, but it's absolutely true. I have found that I keep finding Gibson Les Pauls from the 2005, 2006, 2007, 2008 era of Gibsons. Doesn't matter if it's classic or standards, as long as it's a 60s neck, that neck. Gibsons are all over the place. There's just, you can pick up 450s, 2024 50s Les Paul standards. You can grab 4 2024 Les Paul standard Les Paul 1960s, and the necks are slightly different in thickness and stuff. Just there's a lot going on. Remember, it's all at the end of its journey, it's handmade, right? It's a lot of machinery, but then hands-on, and that hands, people have different hands. So I just find for some reason I like those necks. I recently just got another 60s Les Paul, and it's got the same neck as this over here, this gold top that I like so much. In fact, they have almost identical necks, which is really crazy. And I had a feeling it would, and so I made the craziness to purchase it, and that's what I like. Does that mean I dislike all the other necks? No. Does that mean I don't know why. Every time I talk like this, I get comments like somebody's like, "Oh, Phil, 2020, you don't understand." I'm like, look, I'm not saying this isn't good or bad. You asked me what I like. These are what I like. I've learned through trying so many guitars, this is the neck profile I like. And for some reason, Gibson did that neck profile those years. And whether you realize it or not, different product managers take over in different parts of the companies. Look, Fender, Gibson, PRS, you name it. Everybody has a product manager. Everybody has different insight. They do different things. Different years, they change things about the guitars. And sometimes the neck profile changes because they're like, this is more like the 60s neck. Well, this is more like what we want the neck to be now. There's all kinds of reasons for what they do. And I don't know what it is. I'm not super going to deep dive into that. Maybe that's a Trogley thing. Maybe on Trogley's channel, he explains why they're so dramatically different throughout the years with the Gibson necks. I don't know. My working theory with necks, just the thicknesses and how thick necks are and how thin necks are, and just necks in general comes from an analogy that Dana Carvey, the comedian Dana Carvey, gave about doing impersonations. And he said this thing, and I thought it was interesting. He said that when you impersonate a celebrity, eventually the celebrity starts leaning into the impersonation and becomes like an impersonation of themselves. So he was saying that at some point, Arnold Schwarzenegger isn't even Arnold Schwarzenegger anymore. When Arnold Schwarzenegger talks, not in even either acting as a character or in person, he's more like the impersonation of himself. It's his theory. And I thought that was interesting. And in other words, the exaggeration becomes the norm. Okay. And I've seen this theory before, by the way. They were saying, I watched a thing once, they were talking about like Bart Simpson from The Simpsons. Like he said, "I caramba" once and it like landed and it was hilarious. So then the next episode, he had to say it 4 times. And next thing you know, he's just saying that all the time. Right. And so again, they just, become the character themselves. The reason I say that is I think necks work like that too. I think what happens is you play a neck, maybe it's slightly thinner than, like, let's look at it this way. Like in the 80s, you pick up an 80s guitar, you pick up the neck, and the neck is probably maybe an 1/8 inch thinner than a thick Gibson neck. And you're like, wow, this neck's thin. And then years go by. Maybe you don't have that guitar anymore because that's what happens. And when you talk about that guitar, the story gets exaggerated, right? The story is like it was as thin as a saltine cracker. Like it was super, super thin. And then when guitar manufacturers recreate the neck and they make it exactly like how it was, you pick it up and go, no, they didn't do the neck right. It was way thinner than this, or it was way thicker than this, or it was way different than this, because you're remembering the exaggeration. So my theory is that guitar companies sometimes make the exaggerated necks because that's the feedback they get from the guitar players. I think this actually goes more to necks that are more than necks. So, I think pickups do the same thing. I think pickups, one pickup was a little hotter than the standard pickup. And then people go, oh, it's like a flamethrower. And then the company reissues that pickup and they're like, this is not it. And so then the company overwinds it, right? And does all this stuff to give you the exaggeration. I find it happens in everything. I've talked about in modelers and effects units, same thing. You go, I've interviewed companies who design effects processors stuff and modelers, and they've talked about this, that a lot of the factory presets are designed to sell the unit like in the store, kind of like you plug into it and you chorus and you hit it and it's just over. No one's using this much chorus. It's just ridiculous. And it's like chorus delay. It's just out of control. It's everywhere, right? Ping pong delay. It's like bouncing all over the walls, but it's not there to make music with. It's there so you go, wow, that's intensely different. I need this. And then you go home and you go, this is crazy. And you start dialing everything back and you dial the distortion back. So I have a feeling that that's how a lot of things work. And so I think necks are definitely like that. That, like I said, companies start making the exaggeration, the impersonation of themselves. It's kind of like my theory. I've had it for many years, and I've seen so many examples of why I think it could be actually true. These silly things. Okay, what else? We have Mukbang Fatty says, is Olympics still happening? I don't know. Is that they says their website is not so great. Yeah, well, I don't think they're really a website company. He says, will the Gibson and Fender Custom Shop make any shape you want? No. So Gibson and Fender Custom Shop, both Gibson and Fender Custom Shop, essentially the way I think of it is, let me go back to the screen so I can see you guys. The way I think of Fender Custom Shop and Gibson Custom Shop is the same way I think of Paul Reed Smith Custom Shop and pretty much all the custom shops you can imagine. There's production guitars that they're calling custom because they're made on either smaller machines, like smaller CNC machines or older equipment that was more traditional to the originals. Fender's notorious for this. They use a lot of the older equipment to make some of the custom shop guitars. They have a smaller crew of people, so there's less hands on your guitar. So in other words, instead of 40 people making a guitar or 30 people making a guitar, there's like 4, right? So they go, oh, it's custom because less people were involved, and therefore those less people were maybe more highly trained. That's definitely true. Some of the custom shop people are definitely the better. I mean, it takes some of the better employees and better artisans than the factory workers, from them. They promote them. I'm just filling up my water, guys. And that makes it custom shop. Then there's another level of custom shop they all seem to have where it's literally now it's made by one or two people, like let's say Master Built by Fender. Still, it's not made by one person entirely. They still have an assistant or they have helpers, and there's still people doing certain things. But definitely more focused in being unique, and therefore can be more of a one-off thing. Guitar, it doesn't have to be necessarily a mass-produced, like they making 10 or 50 or 100 of these. They're only going to make one at a time, so they only make the one, or are a little, maybe 10. Either way, a lot less. And then the last custom shop that they all have is really for artists. It's not for us. And this is not new, by the way. Interviewing guitar players from back in the 80s, they were notoriously known for sticking all kinds of crazy looking guitars in catalogs that they never made. They made only prototypes for artists. They never had any intention of making them for average people like us, but they would put them into catalogs, and we'd open them and go, whoa. And then, somebody bought one because they were just finally offsetting that guitar. Some companies are known for putting the same guitar in a catalog every year, and you think, oh, they're using the same picture. No, they just took up another picture because they still had the guitar. They never sold it because it was, like I said, only made for the rock stars, the artists, the famous people. So it's not always so it's not always as the way it seems, I guess. But back to your point, custom shapes and styles, no. You got to be somebody to get that kind of stuff, to get somebody to build you something from scratch from those kind of companies. So that's usually how it works. They're usually not going to do it for just one of us, just because they don't care that you're a doctor or a lawyer with a big pocketbook. They don't give a crap. They're right. You can just buy the expensive, semi-slow, small production guitar from the custom shop. So that helps. Maybe it doesn't. Chris says, hey, wait, was there a second part of that? No, just other than the Olympic thing, mukbang, I don't know. I would imagine they still make guitars and basses. It's one of the few. I mean, I love Stanley Clark, but I never bought an Olympic bass. Olympic. Chris says, hey, Happy New Year to you and the family. It's coming time to change strings on my JB Vader. What can I use to block the trim? I didn't see a foam block they usually ship with. You definitely need to stick something underneath there. I would use foam block, man. Whatever they're giving you is just foam. It's not special. So just cut a piece of foam and put it in there. But you do need to do something because that bridge will pop off those posts. It's a nightmare. By the way, I like to point out, I don't own a Kiesel headless guitar with a tremolo. This has come up 3 times, weirdly enough, in the last few months. And again, I have to adjust myself to the world that I live in, and I understand. And now I understand maybe sometimes I need to make a video explaining something when I'm in the video explaining it. I always just, like I said, assume that if you see me do something, then that means I do it. And if you don't see me do it, that means I don't do it. I use hardtail bridges on headless guitars because I'm not a huge fan of the tremolo systems on headless guitars. That's why I don't review them. Companies didn't send them, so I don't really... I didn't buy one and demo a guitar that I don't use. But maybe I need to do a video of that tremolo because it came up a lot. People are asking a lot of questions about the tremolo. I'm like, with Kiesel, I don't think I've ever played a headless Kiesel with a tremolo. More than just, like I said, just picking it up maybe at their facility or just whatever. I'm not interested in it. So, but I do know very well that not only do you need the foam block to change the strings, you usually want to put a foam block underneath it when you're traveling with it because it can bounce hard enough. You bump that guitar in that case hard enough, they'll bounce off the post. I have done those kind of late night calls with friends where they're having an issue with their bridge, and I'm like, okay, here's what you can do. See if that helps. Old Man Bird said 10% off Martin D28 and 7.5% off Tri-Burst Gibson Les Paul at Guitar Center with a little to no fuss. 48 months, 0 financing, made it out this year. Thanks for all the inside info. So in other words, he's saying he went to Guitar Center and he asked for a deal and they gave him the deal on the guitar. Martin D28 is a great guitar. I mean, come on, right? That's just great. I mean, Tri-Burst Les Paul is great, but to me, I'm Martin D28 and D18s. I just love them. I just love them so much. It's just one of those guitars. Every time I strum a chord, it's like I don't know. It just takes you somewhere. It's amazing. He's got a follow-up. He says, Philip, I added a Floyd Rose to my USA Silver Sky. Action was horrible. Tried to fix it with shims. I made it didn't work. Bought wooden ones off Amazon. Worked, but is it okay to use plastic neck shims? Yeah, you can use plastic. Look, this is where the argument is, right? They're going to go, hey, if you put, plastic, you're going to lose tone. I don't know. This is where, like I said, I've shimmed so many necks. I don't know what to say. So you guys know, one of the things that probably concerns me the most is the statement that if you shim a neck, you're killing the tone of the guitar. I watched a YouTuber explain that if you don't push the neck while you're tightening the bolts and get the compression, then you're losing sustain because it's not touching. I'm like, Jesus, this is crazy. This is crazy. I'm like, you know how many guitars I've set up and shimmed? And how many hundreds of guitar luthiers have done the same thing everywhere, shimming guitars? You know how many factory workers have shimmed guitars? Do you know how many guitars? Dude, Jimi Hendrix guitars probably got shim and it shoved in. It's very rare to find any Fender Strats without a piece of sandpaper shoved in underneath the neck. So I don't know how to talk about that whole argument of like it kills the tone. Oh man, if you shim it with something, it's like the tone is gone. I'm like, it's possible, but oh my God, all the guitars are like that. Like that's the majority of the guitars. That's why they did the micro tilt. I personally think the micro tilt probably still is more sustained than probably a piece of sandpaper or wood or plastic, but who knows? But no, I don't really. Let me put it this way: it wouldn't bug me if I shoved a business card or if I had an old gift card, like a Sam Goody gift card, plastic gift card. I know they don't exist anymore, but you understand? I cut that up and shoved it in a neck. Yeah, I wouldn't care less. All it would matter to me is I don't see it from the side. As long as it looks nice on the edge, that's fine. As long as uniform, I don't really care. So, me personally, I would find that there's, like I said, and things to worry about with the guitar's sound and playability. I wouldn't care. Greg says, hey, Phil, my Ignator Rebel 30 is finally acting up, so I'm starting to eye an eventual replacement. For me, the clean is the Rebel's main event. Should I be looking at anything besides the Morris 20? Well, I mean, yeah, there's so many great amps. I mean, if you're looking at the Rebel, you have a Rebel 30, so I would say, and you want a clean amp, I mean, I like the Mark 525. I like the Rectoverb. Because you have the Rebel 30 has reverb, I'm assuming that's something that matters to you. So I'm not going to mention the amps that don't have reverb. But for a small clean amp that has great clean, Supro, Magic, the Magic Box? What am I trying to say? I mean, there's so many. Like I said, they're great. So, the Ignator Rebel 30, I had that amp. I really, really liked it. I like the Rebel 20 size more. And I like but it didn't have reverb. I like the Rebel 30. So, I mean, there's so many great amps, but like you, at least assuming we're like the same each other where we both want reverb and reverb small amps. I mean, all the ones I mentioned are good, but there's so many. I mean, right now I'm not looking at the comment section, but I'm sure it's exploding with people saying this one, that one, this one. I mean, there's so many. There are very few. Actually, think of this. The shortest list I could give you is a list of small tube heads, like 20-watt tube heads that I don't like the clean. I mean, it's a short list. And so, a majority of them are mostly because they're missing reverb. So, I don't know. Okay. Speaking of which, I lost the comment section for a second. It was kind of funny. Okay, hold on. I just want to see if they're giving any suggestions for small amps. But like I said, I would say any of those amps. I'm trying to think of something else that I've you know what else? I like the Bad Cat Black Cat. That's about the same size as the Rebel 30, 30 watts. It's way nicer. Way more expensive though, but it's nice. So nice. So many amps. Jimmy Lee saying, just have it serviced. There's an option too. If you have a good amp tech, So, okay. All right. I'm reading comments. See, I told you sometimes I can get sidetracked with the comments. Cars in Depth says Lace makes cigar specific Illumitones. Yes, I know, but I'm just saying he could use the ones that he's getting today for free to do that. That's what I'm saying. Because the way the magnet is set, the way the pickup works, it's not specific to. It's not like slug magnet, right? The 2 bars basically, as long as there's a string over one of those 2 bars, it's gonna hear it. You'll be fine. You'll be fine. So yeah, but yes, they make a cigar specific. Illumitone makes a cigar box guitar specific pickup. Chad says, thank you to the vendors that donated. It's nice to see manufacturers giving back. Yeah, it was really nice. I mean, they get a lot of advertising out of it too, which is great. I work in an industry where corporations are all about the bean counting, and it's refreshing to see some love back. You know, what's great is think about this, it's always shocking to me that more companies aren't interested in promoting like stuff like this, do giveaways. Giveaways on have you guys noticed, like, we give away guitars on the YouTube videos, and I always kind of chuckle because, I can get a company more likely to send a product for a giveaway on a YouTube video than I can the podcast. The podcast is by far the biggest reach. It's massive. The Dana Electro guys, according to well, it doesn't matter who's according to. Let's just say, according to industry standards, Dana Electro's advertising they got for this campaign on the podcast should have cost about $30,000 if they were a normal company in advertising, to have this many views, this many people see this product that many times or have it discussed that many times. So now, granted, nobody would pay that for a guitar channel, but guitar podcast. But if this was a regular podcast, this is what the going rate would be, something in that range. So to see that they got it and they were really cool to give away pedals and snarks to get that kind of advertising, I'm glad they got the advertising for that, for just the free product. I'm absolutely happy that they took care of you guys and they received something out of the deal too. That's basically what I want to say is I agree with you. I thank them and I thank all the companies because they're great, but for doing this, but also, it's kind of funny to the companies that said no. I'm like, you guys, it's like advertising. So, since we started, just for reference, since we started this campaign, the Know Your Gear, giving gear away to pitchers, collectively, there's like 4 million streams and views and downloads that these companies would then got presented to. Good for them. I'm glad. Thank you, Dana, for the super chat. Destructo with a Z says, what music are you listening to lately? Well, right now I've been on a very boring, so I get YouTube music. As you guys know, I'm a big, huge fan for the paid YouTube deal. So I pay for the YouTube, what they call it, YouTube Premium, whatever it is. You get 6 people. So let me give you the spiel. I don't get anything for this. So just like want to let you know. The reason I tell you that is because it's going to sound a little like a spiel. So YouTube Premium, you get 6 people, not 6 family members, not 6 people who live in your address. 6 people. Ralph has YouTube Premium because of me or whatever. It's I just literally I gave it to the kids, my wife, me, and then Ralph's girlfriend's like, I don't watch YouTube, so she didn't want it. But I was like, you pick people and you sign them up, and then they get no ads in their YouTube at all. They get to download all the YouTube they want on their phone. Now they don't get to keep it, but they get to have it in their phone or on their tablet. I think I downloaded my tablet because that's what I watch, listen to on plane rides. And then there's YouTube Music, which is really a lot like Spotify. There's some things that are not as good as Spotify, and there's some things I like better than Spotify. And over time, like Spotify, it starts learning what you listen to, right? And then it creates like master playlists, mix lists. It's what I tap on the screen on my truck. It's like as soon as I get in my truck, because I have wireless Apple CarPlay. So as soon as I get in my truck, it's just my phone's like synced up. And before I get in the truck, it's just right on my screen. I just tap it. It says master mix list or mix play. And then it just plays everything. And it's playing country. It was playing a lot of Alien Ant Farm, because I guess I've been listening to a lot of them lately. You know, just all the stuff I listen to. And then so it's in that rotation. So that's why I like it. I like that a lot. And I like not having ads. And I like downloading all the time. It's really cool. Little fun fact for you. If you want to help a YouTuber and you have YouTube Premium, download their video, because when you download it, it counts as one complete watch. Once you download it, you don't even have to watch it. Just download it. As soon as you download it, it's one complete. Like, as far as YouTube is concerned, not only did you watch it, you watched it to completion, because it assumes that because they can't see when you watch it, they can't track you once it's downloaded. It doesn't know how much of the video you consumed, so it just assumes you consume it all with the download. Little fun fact for you there. That way I get tons of money. No, it's not true, but you do get money, just not tons of it. Stupid Guitar says happy. Oh, you know what else? Oh, can I say? He said, Destructo has also said, what am I listening to lately? I'm listening to, I can't say. I'm listening to, so I have a CD player here in the office, and I listen to a lot of CDs, and I've been listening to an instrumental album nonstop that's from a good friend of the channel who's a YouTuber, but his album's not out yet, so I can't tell anybody. It's not me. I was like, I wouldn't talk about myself in the third person like that. He's a really cool YouTuber. He wears a black hat all the time, and he plays. No, so I'll talk about that album, because I've been listening to it like crazy. I can't stop listening to it. And it has nothing. To be honest, I listened to it because he's a friend and he sent it to me, and I was like, oh, I'll listen to it. But then I just couldn't stop listening to it. Stupid Guitar says, happy holidays, you filthy animals. I didn't watch that movie this year, Little Home Alone, but a great movie, great quote. Grumpy Digga says, good day, Phil and family. Which Martin D18, D28 in your opinion? Wait, which Martin D28 and D18 in your opinion? Which ones do I like? I don't know. Specifically, let's look. I don't even know. Hold on a second. This is where it gets a little fun. I don't even know which one I have. Let's see. Hold on a second. So I'm pulling up my D18. So mine is just the D18 natural. I didn't really pay attention. They have a satin finish one. That's not the one I have. I've never played the satin finish one. It's a little bit less, which is cool. And then they have the modern deluxe. I get what you're saying. The authentic. Yeah, no, I don't have the authentic or the modern deluxe. Mine's just the D18. No modern deluxes and no authentics. Where I live, it's so dry. I try to stay away from acoustics that are just crazy money. Because like I said, I have to be okay with the fact that if it ever cracks. Right now, my office is 48% humidity, which is pretty good. For us, it's pretty good. Keeping 50% humidity in the desert is really almost impossible. And I make it worse this time of year because I'll open windows. So I have to run a humidifier when I have the windows open, because the room will drop down. This room will drop to 32% humidity, 30% humidity in one day just from having the window open. Welcome to Arizona. And so keeping throughout the rest of the year, when it's warmer, it's easier to keep the humidity in the house really normal, and especially in the office where there's guitars. But I always kind of just assume that the guitar could crack, just because, like I said, I'm not gonna keep it in an aquarium. I'm not gonna keep it in a case with a humidifier all the time. I just try to make sure the humidity doesn't drop below 40%, which is, to me, where it gets a little scary for guitars, acoustics. Plus, not to mention, like, the shop will keep the shop about 45%. I'm like, usually I have a little chart, not chart. I have a screen that tells me what the shop humidity is right now, room. but it's usually about 45 is the low, and then we'll keep it 50% humidity, which tells you a lot, because I've had people say, like, when I got fret sprout, they're like, well, you live in the desert. I'm like, I do, but we are humidifying a little bit, because again, we have to a little bit. Because again, it could get so dry that every guitar will get fret sprout. It'll just, you can't take a guitar down to 20% humidity. I've never seen, on a side note, I've never seen 20% humidity in this office before, but I've been told that Arizona, like homes in Arizona, can get as low as 20%, no problem. But I don't know. I don't know what specifically does that. But anyways, back to, I'm not going to buy acoustic guitar. If that Martin D18 already, if it cracks, is going to bum me out, because I'm going to have to clean it and fix it. But it's fine. Stay stable. That's good. Elroy says, hey, what would you do if you had to go to another country and you couldn't bring your guitars? How would you start over? I wouldn't. If I went, look, let me be very clear. Most of this stuff is because of YouTube, right? I do so much content that we just have guitars. We have guitars to do content. We have guitars because companies send guitars. We have guitars because I meet people in the guitar biz and we become friends. And, you know, sometimes they send a guitar as a gift, and sometimes I give them a gift. It's just how it works. My point being, you know, if I had to go somewhere like overseas or somewhere, and if I was still doing content, I would have a bare minimum collection of guitars, and I would run a little, like a smaller rig than what I have now. Right now, I just have everything is about comfort for me. I have a lot of guitars, I have a lot of amps, I have a lot of mics, I have a lot of everything here. It's great. If I had to go somewhere overseas or somewhere else, I wouldn't try to recreate all this again. I would just go, I would run a much smaller rig, which I could do. So I mean, think about this. I could fundamentally do everything I do here with just a HX Stomp and a Zoom H6, whatever, whichever one is the Zoom I have, H4, H6, whatever the hell it is. That right there is enough to get most of the stuff done. And then just a couple of cameras. I don't need all the cameras we have now. Everything's about convenience. I have everything set up to make it as convenient as possible. Anyone who does this, and I hate going down these roads, but just so you guys know, anyone who does this for any length of time, whether you can make a living at it, are subsidized and give, you know, so where you're making a side hustle money out of it, which is nice, or you're not making any money out of this, can tell you that who cares how a video, you know, I don't want to say who cares about a video you make, it's how many you make. After a while, like anything, the process becomes a little exhausting. So anything you can do to make that more convenient. So most of my rigs now, most of everything I have now for YouTube is about convenience, to make it as convenient as possible for me to make content. So I have a ton of cameras. I think right now we have 9 cameras. So 9 cameras, because they're all preset. Everything's preset up, so I don't have to move cameras. Because every time you move a camera, you either have to color correct or change angles or make sure. I mean, there's always something. So to keep things, so you get the idea. So everything's streamlined. So same with guitars. I wouldn't start over a giant collection of guitars again. I would probably have, I don't know, a dozen. I mean, that's a lot. 12 guitars. That's kind of where I'm always the happiest, is 12 guitars. The problem now is I have 12 guitars now that are just here to make videos. So then I have to have, I know it sounds dumb. I hate talking about this because it's just dumb. It's just dumb talk. But so, you know, it's true. I mean, there's just guitars. I told you I need a Strat, because if I demo something that needs a Strat in the video, you need a Strat. So in a perfect world, I'd use my Kiesel Delos for 90% of the videos I make. But the pushback in the internet would be, you get the comment section. I get it. Who wants to hear a guitar, an amp or a guitar through, or a pedal through a guitar they're not familiar with all the time? Let's do this. Where are we at? I think we're at the end. So I think we're pretty much done. Following up. I said I would end on this last week, so we'll end on it. I know Amanda's probably got some stuff. Let's see if there's anything I want to grab real quick. Okay, so we'll end on 2 things. Okay, so first of all, it's the end of the year. I want to thank you guys for an amazing year. The channel did really good, and that's you guys. Thank you for that. So to say thank you, let's do this last question and then the story I promised. So the last question is from Jason. It came from Amanda. Forward this to me. Thank you, Amanda. It says, hey, Phil, I decided to create my own guitar brand. Any advice for beginning company trying to keep things local and small? Well, keeping things local and small is about as easy as it can get. It's the opposite that's hard. Keeping things small is super easy. You don't even have to try. It's going to happen. So if you want to keep your guitar brand local and small, don't go on the internet. You don't control the internet. So the idea, there are two things that can happen if you have a brand and you take it on the internet. You'll either be upset because you're not getting views, you're not getting interaction, you're not growing. And I understand why that's concerning and frustrating to you. That is where a lot of people are at. We talked about this before. I do a lot of consulting on that stuff. And somebody asked me a couple weeks ago, like if they were going to start a YouTube channel. A lot of you guys suggested a lot of YouTubers to get courses from. In my experience, I don't really want to help. So, this is a side note. My experience right now is I don't really want to really do a course. I would never do a lesson course on how to help an individual YouTuber. Because to be honest with you, some of the best things to do are kind of secretive, and I don't think those channels are probably going to tell you either, or they don't know them to make a lot of money on the internet. But as a company, that's a different story. I think there's a lot of things because they work differently than how a YouTuber has to work as like a channel creator. And my point is, to keep yourself small and local, you really need to stay off the internet for promotion because I'm a perfect example of that. I'm 100% perfect example. I had no intention of doing YouTube, not only as a living at all. I didn't even know I was doing YouTube. That's how silly this was. I was posting videos on Facebook for my buddy Matt. That's pretty much what I was doing. I was like, oh, Matt. And then I started posting a couple videos on my own, and I got a small group of people. And I meant small, like a couple hundred people, like not even subscribers, just a couple hundred people watching. And I was like, oh, this is cool. And then my wife suggested to me a couple things that happened in the store, maybe make some videos talking about those situations so that if a customer comes in the store, I could go, oh, you could watch my video on YouTube and watch that. And then one day I got 30,000 views on a video and it just started just blowing up. And that the reason I say that is that I had no intention. Like I was just going to keep running my store forever. I enjoyed working in the store. YouTube just made that exponentially different. It made the situation different, like what you're talking about. It makes it to where either your store has to become the next Andertons, and this is your YouTube channel, and this is what you're going to try is be a baby Andertons in the US, right? Because they're so huge as a channel and as a store and how they've constructed all this. Or go a different way, which is what I decided to do, is just go a different way, which is just go YouTube and just not connect the business part of it that way. In your situation, you're in the same situation. So keep it small. I would stay off of posting. Even if you think you're only posting to 20 people, 30 people, you'll never know when something explodes. And in most cases, whatever blows up is not what you wanted. I don't mean that in a negative way or a positive way. I just mean it in a crazy way, like just it's never the thing that you post that, whatever you think is magical, you put it out, no one watches that. And whatever you think is like, people will watch that and it becomes the biggest thing you can ever have. And that's what you are now. And that's what your company is. So I would stay away from that. On that note, the thing I talked about last week was we were talking about Ovation and where Ovation is now and how it happened. So if you guys didn't catch it last week at the end of the show, somebody asked me, we were talking about Ovation and we were talking about how Ovation had changed and why how companies change because of things like buyouts. So let me give you the history that is Ovation where I was connected to this. Okay. So I want to give you the story I'm giving you is not something you Wikipedia. It's not something that you read somewhere. This was just, I was involved with this. It was something connected to me I had to deal with as a store. Here's what happened. So in the early 2000s, as you guys know, Fender acquires Jackson Charvel. But also, Fender also acquired a company that had the brands Guild and DeArmond, and they also owned Sunn, S-U-N-N, amps. And if you go through old Fender catalogs, I've told you guys, I have almost pretty much every Fender catalog there is, from the day I started playing guitar till now, or till recent years. And if you go through Fender catalogs, you'll see that for a while, Fender had sections of their catalogs that had the other brands in there, right? Besides just Squier and Fender, it had the other brands that they did, which was, eventually was SWR and a ton of other brands. But let's talk about Guild. So Fender buys this company. They have Guild now. They have D-Armond, which now they're making basses out of, D-Armond basses. Some people know the Ashbury bass, which is a little bass with silicone strings. And they're making Sun amps, which are mostly bass amps that they're mostly making. And they start making the Guild acoustics in the California factory, the guitar factory. And they're not very good. The dealers are upset. Guitars crack. They're not playing right. Fender isn't somehow making an acoustic, a good acoustic. The Guilds are not there. Guilds are highly respected. Guilds are not only highly respected, they're known as one of the best recorded acoustics of all time and one of the best 12 strings of all time. So many artists, even Tom Petty, who had a Martin, I think, endorsement, played a Guild 12 string, right? So it's really common for artists who only play like certain acoustics still to have a Guild 12 string. So this isn't going well. So Fender realizes they have to get a factory and put Guild in this factory. There was a factory in Washington, Tacoma, right? Which is oddly enough called Tacoma. So Tacoma Acoustics. I was a dealer for all of these things at the same time. I was a dealer of Tacoma. The Thunder Chief and the Papoose were some of the best-selling guitars I could sell in my store. I loved that was the best acoustic bass that you could probably ever get. And the Papoose was like, before everybody was making mini travel acoustics, the Papoose was like the thing to get. I loved Tacoma acoustics. No finish on the guitars, bolt-on necks. They played great. They loved the desert, and so they were made in Washington. Well, what happened was they went defunct. They had to file bankruptcy. Now, allegedly, the owner absconded with like the money or something and left back to Korea or something. That's allegedly. That's something. So you understand where that came from? A rep at Fender told me that. Okay, so I'm just telling you why this all matters. So Fender buys Tacoma Instruments in Washington and starts training the employees on how to make Guilds, which is tough because Tacomas, as I said, don't have any finish on the acoustics, no lacquer, nothing. And they were bolt-ons and not glued-in necks, but the glued-in necks, not so much a problem. It's the finish work. So they start making Guilds in Tacoma. Now, keep in mind, they're also making Guilds like in China and overseas too, but we're talking about the high-end Guilds. So then what happens is they start making less and less Tacomas. All of a sudden, I'm noticing, I'm not getting Tacomas delivered anymore. Like, hey, I got 2 Thunder Chiefs on back order. Hey, I'm not getting my Tacomas. Like the Thunder Chief was like a hot seller for us because every acoustic bass player, that's the acoustic bass to get. And as they pushed Guild, they eventually stopped. They shelved Tacoma. By the way, my understanding probably has not changed that Fender still owns Tacoma Instruments as a shelved brand. In other words, they own the brand, but it's not doing anything. It's like SWR. They own SWR as well. It's a shelved brand. Okay, so then Fender, by the way, that factory wasn't owned. It was leased, so they didn't own the building. So Fender then acquires a company called Kaman. Kaman. Some people pronounce it other ways. So my rep from Kaman always called it Kaman. So that's why I call it that. If that's wrong, I said it in a video and somebody said I'm saying it wrong. I'm like, well, they took my checks and that's how I said it. And that's how they said it back to me. So I don't know why that would be wrong. A lot of you guys know the Ovation story. The creator of Ovation owned a company called Kaman who made helicopter parts, and then he started making acoustics, and that's why the bowl of the Ovation is based off the seat in these helicopters, apparently. So anyways, they acquire Kaman, and Kaman has a ton of brands, but one particular brand that's important is Ovation Hamer, which is made in a factory in Connecticut that is owned. They own the building. And so now Fender can move Guild to Connecticut, which they did, and start building acoustics in Connecticut, and they have the asset of owning the building, which is good, right? Instead of owning a lease. So they started making Guild. Well, guess what? I was a Guild. Same thing. I'm a dealer for all these brands, right? So you get your Ovations from Kaman. You get your, very rarely were you getting any Hamers, right? But anyways, you're getting these brands. But more importantly, as the Guilds came, again, the same story with Washington, which is Tacoma. All of a sudden, less and less Ovations, to the point where they only made 2 Ovations in that factory. I think there was only 2. They were, whatever they were only artist guitars. In other words, signature artist guitars were coming out of that factory. All the other Ovations. And if you remember, for a long time, Ovation was made in the USA, and then there was Applause was the import. But then all of a sudden, Ovation became an import as well. And then Applause fades away a little bit, because why have a sub-brand made in China or Korea if your main brand's now made in China, Korea? It didn't make sense. You can get more sales out of having the Ovation brand for the same pricing. And by the way, when that first happened, we sold the crap out of that, because having $200 and $399 Ovations, like people come in. I remember the first $399 Ovation we sold, it was to a guy who said, I bought one of these in the 70s and it was like $3,000 then. And I'm like, really? I mean, I think he said $2,800. And I was like, that's crazy. And he was just like, this is crazy. And he buys it. But of course, the one he bought then was made in the USA, and this one was made like in Korea. So slowly over time, Ovation fades away for Guild. And then Fender sold Command. So then Command goes away. And Guild, I forgot who Guild. I think Cordoba bought Guild, which is funny because I'm pretty sure the president of Cordoba was the son of the president of that time of Fender. So that makes sense why they would make that move. But interesting enough, now Ovation is owned by a German company. And I believe, if I recall, I can never say their name right. The name is, hold on a second. Now I got to look it up because I'm going to mess it up, and I apologize this, but I'll give you the spelling, at least you know. I have no idea how to say this. Gewa, Gewa. Gewa is the company. They're a German company that own Ovation. According to my understanding, in 2022, they acquired them from whoever Fender sold. So I don't think Fender sold the Ovation to this company. I think Fender, like I said, they sold off Command, and then I think Command, I think it was Music Corp or whoever ended up buying that, then sold it to this company. This company went back to Connecticut. I don't know if they're in the same building because I don't know how that works, but apparently they do make Ovations. And just to give you a reference, here, let me show you. Here is an Ovation. This is at Alto Music. I pulled this up so we could share it. Here's an Ovation for $2,500. This is the USA Pro Series Elite E. So Ovation is, and that says on order with manufacturer, so it's back ordered. So again, this is where it's always concerning about this stuff. Like, are they making these guitars? Are they back ordered on these guitars? Are they not making them? I don't know. But I know this, if you go and look at Ovation import line guitars, it's like there's a bazillion. So you can find tons and tons of them that are made overseas, but finding USA ones is pretty rare. So I know I said last week I would tell this story today, so I told it. And as a dealer, it was always a very frustrating experience because, like I said, you'd have this product that you loved and the customers loved it and they'd fade it out. Tacoma did not go away because people didn't want it. At least for us, people wanted it. It went away because, like I said, this is how that story unfolded. And I remember every time the rep, who, by the way, is a great guy, and he's since retired, so this was really great. There's no backlash can come to him for all this stuff. I remember we would sit in my store and we would just talk about like how this is all unfolding, and he'd be like, I know, it's crazy. And by the way, he was acquired. My Fender, he's called a specialty rep, so he's everything that isn't Fender is what they call those reps. So he sold me everything that wasn't Fender. So he sold me EVH and Jackson and Charvella and Guild and Gretsch and Tacoma and you get it, right? Everything that wasn't Fender, Groove Tubes, anything that's not Fender but owned by Fender is what he was responsible for. And he came from Guild. When they acquired the company, he was a rep for that company. That's how he got with Fender. But we would sit and talk about this, and it was crazy. And so it's an interesting thing. It's weird to hear stuff like this, I think, because people speculate. And when you see this stuff, I always tell people Wikipedia is written by the winners. So Fender doesn't tell this story. It's not to shame Fender or anything. It's not a shameful story. I don't think it was malice. I don't really feel at the time it was malice. I don't think Fender was like out to destroy companies. A lot of you are going to have a comment because, of course, it makes sense. A lot of them are like, it's corporate greed. It's corporate this. I think it was not only corporate greed. I think that always factors into that. But I think it was mostly bad mistakes. It was, and in my experience in this industry, I have still not met a single company where the owner is the creator and the owner are the same person, or the family, right? Where it's not connected to a person, where it's invested, where the company is connected to some kind of investment firm, where the passion is there at that level. So that's what happens. It's really what happens. It's not only the greed, it's just this. Without the passion, these decisions get made. And I don't know. Maybe that was interesting. I don't know. But that's the story, and that's how it happened. And so now I will see you guys next year, next Friday. Then will be our first episode of 2025. And in between then, we should have a couple videos for you to enjoy on the channel. Please check out the second channel if you haven't. That hit 20,000 subscribers. Holy crap. By the way, can I just say on the last note, I know every YouTuber and all of us do the same thing. We're like, wow, I hit this number. This is crazy. This is the number we hit. Wow, we hit this. Because it's you feel good when things go well. The second channel is averaging 300,000 views a month, which is over 250,000, obviously, and 20,000 subscribers is just beyond crazy to me. I don't even know how to explain that. So thank you for supporting that, by the way. And supporting this channel and everything else you guys do. You're just freaking awesome. By the way, I'm toying with the idea. This is the last thing. Please put in the comments, because I haven't convinced my wife yet that this is a good idea. I'm toying with the idea. I have a pedal board that I have to build. Put this thing together. I'm toying with the idea of doing a live stream on New Year's Eve, like a 2-hour live stream, an hour and a half to 2 hours live stream of building the entire pedal board and maybe fielding questions and talking to you guys while I'm doing it. If you think you would be interested in that doing that, let me know in the comments so I know. And then Guitar Quackery says, what second channel? It's just Film Ignite 2. Just the number 2. Should be Dose, but it's 2. So Film Ignite 2, there's a link in the description. Takes you to the second channel. Thank you guys so much for that. As always, to the next time, know your gear.
The Know Your Gear podcast. Today's episode of the Know Your Gear podcast is brought to you by Patreon members,